Welcome back, everybody, to the 7th episode of The Mandalorian Season 2. It's a spoiler-heavy review here on SCN. Thanks for joining me, Kristian Harloff. And it's been a season and then some. And I'm not even talking about the material itself. I'm talking about everything that has kind of transpired in the Star Wars galaxy, if you will, during the run of this season, especially yesterday. And yes, this show is going to serve as somewhat of a Star Wars show besides just Mandalorian today, because we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that went down yesterday, but we'll get into the spoiler heavy stuff first. Joining me, as always, Killer, Mr. Mike Kalinowski is here. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Up and awake and ready to go. And this penultimate episode, as you would say, as they would call it.
That's as Mark Ellis loves to say. Yeah, man. So look, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy review as always. We may, the reason why I haven't announced anything yet officially is because we may have a special guest on today, waiting to see if they're going to pop by. If they do, we will welcome them open arms. If not, you're just stuck with myself and Mike. So
that's not so bad.
That's not so bad. But we had this episode 7's The Believer. Woke up a little. That's not true. I didn't wake up a little late today. The kids were something this morning. So I was back and forth watching the episode, and then I didn't have enough time to capture screenshots and everything too. So again, forgive us for this one. It's just going to be very bare bones on this episode. But I thought the episode itself was a bit bare bones in a good way. So to take us through. You know, it leaves off last episode 6, that Mando goes to Cara Dune, tells her, listen, you got to help me get Mayfield out. You got to help me get him out. He knows where Gideon's thing is, and we got to get him. And she's like, well, I can't do that. So we got the kid. All right, well, fine. And the first shot you see in this episode of all the scraps of the TIE fighters and all of that happening, and it's that alone was really great. And then you see the droid come up to him as prisoner, blah, 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 and it's Mayfield. I know that you and I are on opposite pages here. I love Bill Burr in this show. I love him in this show, and I love Mayfield. I love the character of Mayfield, and we'll get into that a little deeper as we explored him more in this episode.
Well, now I'm bored. I'm a man that can admit when he's wrong.
Okay.
Because I loved him in this episode.
Great, isn't he?
Maybe it's the first episode, but he had so much dramatic work in this. The chops on this kid. I like to say that the chops on this guy, who I've never seen give these scenes. He's given some of the best scenes of the season, I think.
You remember
those two scenes with Mando? He had 2 good scenes with him.
He's a really good actor, man.
He really is.
He was good in what's the Breaking Bad, obviously, but he was really good in The King of Staten Island. Did you see that movie?
With Pete Davidson.
He plays like it's like he's the guy who's interested in his mom. But anyway, he does have those levels, and you see them in this episode. Now, this is one of those episodes where it's like, okay, we're gonna get into you have to be on board now with Mando that this is the style of the show. There's these separate things that he's doing, going to different planets, and that overall adds to the big mission. And that's what this does, because they say, okay, listen, only Mayfield can get in there. My favorite line, I want to see if you can guess. Can you guess my favorite line from this entire episode?
Oh God.
It's Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett. When
they're going to recognize me?
He's like, let's just say they'll recognize my face. I was like, yes, that is so good. Great.
I mean, I was watching it, and every time, like you've said it so far, I don't want to say I disagreed with you, because I think it was kind of a blanket statement. But the one time in this episode was I was like, okay, this is a video game. Mm-hmm. Like on the level, you got to keep the Rythothium or whatever it was.
Keep the levels down.
And at a certain level, but waves keep coming at you. And you got to drive at a certain speed as like, this is a video game. Like I felt like I know what you meant with it, but I think people took something like as a disservice. And I was like, no. With the side quest and everything, because that like people thought like maybe we were belittling talking video games. Like, no,
close.
Video games are so enriched the stories.
Yes.
I think it's a compliment.
I said, this reminds me of a video game movie, then you could say, oh my God, why are you saying that about? video games have some of the best stories with the missions that tie in depth, that tie in out of any medium. Yeah. So then when I say that, it is and I've always tried to reference it is a loving compliment that is just one of the best Star Wars. Yeah, it's one of the best Star Wars games of all time, because it does have that thing. And you're gonna have these obstacles that get in the way, but you can even see it. You can see it if you wanted to envision like the storyline between where Cara Dune and the rest of them show up to the planet, and it's like you could see the subtitles of the game, and it's like.
And someone tweeted out recently about the being a video game. I don't think they didn't tag you in it, but then the video game developer of that Star Wars 1313. Remember that the Untitled game that never got released? They're like, man, we tried. Like that. This seems like this whole show was like what they were going to do.
But so Mayfield had the biggest arc and depth in this entire episode. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, it's great.
There's a lot of and first episode without the Grogster.
That's true.
Yeah, first episode without the Grogster.
Yeah, I thought about that last night. I was like, we haven't not once this time.
Right. So Grogster wasn't in this one, but but either way, we get them on this planet. It's Ferric, Boba Fett, Cara Dune, Din, and of course Mayfield. And so they get there, and he's like, "Listen, I can't go by myself. Somebody's got to go with me. Nobody can go. Nobody can go. Except Din." And he goes, "Listen, I'll go. We'll figure it out." And he shows up in the great scene, and that's to me, this is why I've always liked the Bill Burr character, even in the first episode. Now in this one, is that he has, like, I always push back and people, well, why has he got a Boston accent? Why do they have British accents?
Right, exactly.
It's silly to make that argument. It's so.
I'm going to bring that up when we talk towards the end of the episode about that accent thing too, because something else was popped up, and I was like, oh, that's different.
There's a lot of different accents and all over the Star Wars galaxy. I can't. Oh, it's Boston. Why would he have a Boston accent? No, why is that person French? You know, it's like it doesn't. Who cares? Either way, they have this. What I was going to bring up with is he's got a character to me that reminds me of a lot of that not to an extent, kind of the same foundation that like the Han Solo character was built off of, right? This guy who is kind of by himself, but there's layers to him underneath, and he's going to crack jokes, and that's what I really love about the character, is that when he first sees Mando after they get off the ship and he sees Boba Fett, he goes, I thought you were another guy. And then he shows up and he knows, because he knows that he screwed him over last time. And even in that first episode, he's with him in season 1. He sees Mando kick the piss out of all these droids and just wreck him. And he's still a jerk to him. Right, he's still a jerk to him, and he stays. He just kind of always prods him, and he's always like, "Why don't you take the helmet off? When do you take the helmet?" He does that in the first episode. He does it in this one. He messes with him. He's like, and he's got this philosophy that it doesn't matter if you're in the Republic, it doesn't matter if you're in the Empire. It's all the same thing.
That's what he got that whole big discussion.
Yeah,
man. You want to believe it? You got your things. You got this. You got that. What's it going to be? We're the same.
It was similar to that angle that just died in the new trilogy with when they were setting it up with Benicio del Toro, right? And he never saw him ever again. But like it was that angle of who's good, who's bad, you don't know. And I've been through some stuff, buddy. I know, but they're and this is where it goes back to what you were talking about, these levels that of this game, if you will, and they have to drive it. And he's got the mask. He's talking to him. He's trying to get something out of Mando. Mando's giving him nothing. Right. And then the pirates show up. And I have to be honest. I thought at one point. I mean, I know that you're not watching. Are you watching Clone Wars and Rebels yet?
I've started.
Okay. Have you got?
I knew I was like, okay, I've got to get on board and start go to town on these. I got the time now.
Are you watching Clone Wars?
I'm trying to do it in order,
chronological order. That's what
I'm trying to. I found these massive tombs of websites of like, watch this episode and this thing.
The Star Wars website will give it to you, and there's other ways to do it. But watching chronological. But have you met Hondo yet?
No, Hondo's the guy from. Isn't that the guy from the theme park too?
Yeah. He's in Galaxy's Edge.
No, I've not met him yet.
And so he is. But he came from Clone Wars and Rebels, right?
Okay.
So I was expecting that, because he more so in Clone Wars, where the rebel he's leading the pirates, and I for a moment thought we were going to see Hondo. And
Did you?
I thought maybe that was going to be an angle,
guys.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the pirates are trying to blow up this thing, which is ultimately what they wind up doing anyway at the end. So they're just wiping out all these pirates, blowing them up, killing them, and it's like one thing if the pirates were like trying to steal it and use it for something else, but they're trying to blow it up.
Yeah,
and it's like so they were like taking these guys out, and I'm like, no, where's gonna be the outcry for the pirates? We got the outcry for the eggs. We're gonna get an outcry for the pirates.
They really blew those guys up. They're just out there, and why they do that? All of them, no ships full of them.
Hashtag save the pirates.
Yeah.
So
pirates life. Hashtag pirates life for me.
That's right. And they So anyway, the pirates are
Hondo's species. That was his species. Because he's got that head wrap on in the theme park on this character he's got that helmet thing on.
Yeah, but he's but he wasn't in this. It was a moot point. So
it was a moot point.
It was a moot point. So they make it, and it was funny because they have done this a few times in this show. Is like right when it seems like it's dire, because Mando's up there. He doesn't have his Beskar, and he's still a great fighter, obviously, but he's up there fighting these pirates, and he's taking shots that normally he'd be able to take easy. And I like that they did that. Like it hits his arm, and they
throws him off for a second. He's like, oh man, so that's us like getting hit.
Yeah, and he also shows you how much he trusts Cara Dune, because he gives her all the armor to watch, and I'll be back for this, right?
It's kind of pathetic the way he's just kind of he's like, all right, here.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I got to downgrade.
He knows he's got to downgrade, but he's fighting up there, and he's kicking the crap out of all these pirates, and then it's just a bunch of them, and you know it because it's happened on the show a billion times over. You know that someone's going to save them, and it's the TIE fighters this time. And you're watching it, and he even says, "You ever think you'd be cheering for TIE fighters or whatever he says?"
And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Finish.
No, and when they finally make it through, and the saluting for everybody right there, I'm like, oh, it was creepy. It was weird. It was like,
one of my few issues with this episode was I liked when they arrive and everybody's cheering them. Because that's what would happen. They're the only ones that, because they see all these explosions.
They were the fifth one of that.
Only one that survives. But no one talks to them. You know what I mean? No one's talking to them, and it's like this. If all these things are blowing up and everybody just ate it, and they're just like, hey, look at the guys.
Look at the guys. They did it. Oh, man.
Good job, guys.
And you pissed your pants. You were scared, huh?
One guy that comes up to him and goes, how'd you do it? One guy. Not even like a superior officer.
What do you mean, how'd you do it? It was a straight line. You drive. But it's like
but either way, well, no, but it's not just a straight line. The other guys had a straight line. They didn't make it.
Yeah.
How did or guess what? We were watching.
They didn't want to pay for the actors. That's money. Either $1,000, you give a guy 2 lines, he's got $1,000.
I get this. But I'm just telling you, as far as the story goes, it's like, hey, wait, that guy that's not taking his helmet off, he just kicked the piss out of 75 pirates by himself. Come here, let's talk about it, pal. And I was like, hey, good job, buddy. Go get yourself a snack in the cafeteria.
Go and drink. Get yourself some cookies.
That was, did it ruin the episode for me? No, not even close. But I just thought that I'm like, somebody talk to these guys, because the only reason they talk to him is because they see him messing about at the terminal, right? I like that idea. Where again,
Star Wars, it's always something like that. We got to get this inside this. It's impossible. We got to do it though. It's Star Wars.
It's classic Star Wars. So Mayfield's like, I'm not doing it. I know that guy.
He walks in. He's like, nope, not doing that.
I don't know if he's going to recognize me, but I know him, and no thanks. So let's get out of here. It's over, and it just showed you the connection that Grogu and Mando have, because he says, I can't, man.
You're not doing it. You are doing this.
Yeah, this is why I believe that he's season 3. He'll have his helmet off for the majority of the season. I think that once the Bo-Katan angle comes back in,
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
We're gonna see that he's gonna realize he doesn't have to do that, and he'll still be accepted by a part of the Mando culture. But he takes it off, and he's there, and it's the first time we've seen his face since the finale, right? So he's able to he gets there, and he's taking out the stuff, and the Imperial officer, I swear to God, I'm like, is that Iggy Pop? It was Iggy Pop, but it wasn't Iggy Pop.
You know who that was? That was Joe Chill from Batman Begins.
And he also played the Night King in a couple episodes of Game of Thrones.
Alan Hess was his character's name. But man,
Alan.
But you said with accents. Now this guy's got some accent I never heard of, like almost Southern. I was like, whatever.
He was creepy.
But creepy. Yeah.
Super creepy. A great Imperial creepy. Like a really great Imperial creepy. And
we're so used to the Imperials being the upper crust, stuffy British. Even Giancarlo kind of, though not British, kind of gives that upper crust stuffiness about him.
Yeah,
he's out in this dingy outpost. He's like, yeah, what do you want to buy you a drink? What do you, trooper, take your mask off.
Super creepy. And either way, he notices Din up at the thing, and he's like, trooper. And
I love the resignation on his face when he has to take his helmet off, and he knows he has to do it.
He knows it, and he does it. And then he's like, now it's the first time. Normally he's able to get himself out of situations like this, but he's vulnerable. He doesn't have his Beskar. He doesn't have the helmet on. His face is exposed when it's not supposed to be. And then here's his conversation now with this dude, and he comes in, and then this is again another layer to Mayfield. Mayfield comes over, kind of saves him, calls him Brown Eyes, which is funny. You know that there's a lot of
Brown Eyes. Come on, Brown Eyes.
Like, I knew you'd like that. That's such a Kalinowski thing.
Mayfield is just like, you didn't know what he was going to do, because again, this guy's like, is he going to take off and run? But he comes in, it's like, he's like, he explosion, he's deaf, and the uncomfortableness with Pedro Pascal in this scene, like he was so damn good in this scene. Like it makes me realize, I was like, man, what have we been missing seeing this guy's face as an actor for 13, 14 episodes so far? I'm like,
that's why it's going to be so I think rewarding when he does start to do more and starts to
he's just so good of an actor.
Away from the actors that have been playing him, when he's
nothing at all.
We want to see Pedro Pascal, obviously, and this scene is an indication why. So either way, Mayfield comes in, they're having this conversation, and this is the best scene of the entire episode. They're having a sit down with this guy, and he's cheersing to the Empire, and Mayfield just can't help himself. And he's just like, oh yeah, right. So
like, what do you want to cheers to? The Empire? This kind of rote. I don't want to do that. Let's do something.
Yeah, good. And he shows what has been kind of bubbling up inside of him, because every time they mention the Empire, he's like, I used to be a part of it. I'm not a part of it anymore. This is the stuff that when I've been talking about the Andor series, which is something that we'll get into in a little bit. This is the kind of stuff that I've always wanted to see with the Empire. There are people that fought for the Empire. I mean, even Krill, who was part of it. He was more kind of enslaved to work for them, but he still was. There are people who were not bad people, or it's
the way of life. They had to.
Their worlds and their planets were taken over, and they were made to fight. And there were some planets. Other people obviously volunteered. You get that guy to the creepy Imperial today. That guy clearly wanted to fight.
He signed up. He was like, "Where do I sign up? Where do I get my credits? Let's go."
That's right. So either way. You have all these feelings kind of festering up from Mayfield, and he has this conversation, and it is another kind of Han Solo / Indiana Jones moment, right? He's had enough. Just whips out the blaster and takes the guy out.
You just seen this was the scene that did it for me with Burr, like that won me over. Like you just see, and Pedro, that one scene, he looks over and he's like this. No, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing? And it's just like he's like, no, you're not. There's no talking this guy down. He was like, what's going to happen right now? He was so good.
He was so good. And I have to tell you, I am glad. Where I thought it was going to go after that was Mando going, what are you doing? And he's like, no, all right, let's just blast them all. And they take it because everybody in that room is shocked. They don't know what's happening. Like, and then Mayfield looks over and he blasts another one, and then they just start taking out the entire room, and then everybody, and then again bringing back that video game. It's like when you're playing a video game and you're walking and everything's peaceful, but you take out one guy and then everybody starts coming after you. That's kind of
the waves. Like you're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was, and so they and by the way, we forgot to mention he gets the scan, he goes in, and he's able to. Which is
interesting because will that come back now? Does the Empire have a scan of his face?
Yeah, because he's in the system now.
Yeah,
he's in the system. I mean,
that was the whole thing. How Fennec was like, they'll scan my system. They talked about like the IEDs or whatever that organization was when they're like what scans and whatnot. And so they had her face, and she can't go there. But now they've got him.
Well, so
that will come back. That's a big thing.
I think so too. They have it. They have the information on how to get to what's his face,
Moff Gideon.
Thank you.
They got his ship.
They figured out how to get to Gideon's ship.
Why that needs to be in there, who knows why, but that's what it is. Star Wars.
So they get the information, they blast it, and then I love. There's so much Mayfield stuff that works. He goes, "Look, you did what you had to do. I never saw your face," and you believe him. You believe him. You believe that he's not gonna rat him out. He understood because they just went through something together, that. Because Mayfield showed that could have
been the end of Mayfield right there.
It could have been, plus the fact that he was, instead of that wisecracking crook, he showed him the vulnerable soldier that had been to war, and Mando's seen that, and he was there, and he kind of felt his pain. So he's like, I shared that with you. You went through that with me. Yeah. You did this because of what you're trying to do, because everybody goes through that scene so far. I'm not doing that. They got the kid, the little green guy. It's like, all right, I'll help. Oh, it was the cutest thing in the Star Wars galaxy. I'll help you. So
thank you in the chat. It was the Imperial Security Bureau. Thank you for that. The ISB.
Well, they get out and they get out of the compound.
And I loved how they just were like I'm like thinking, okay, they're trapped in a room. We saw the one entrance, but where they go? I was like, oh, they're going out the window. That's essentially what they're doing. They're going out the window. I love that. They're
going right out the window, but it was part of the plan, because it was set up, and there's Cara Dune and Ferric, and they're just picking people off.
Yeah.
And once again with Mayfield, as he's climbing, he said, "Come on, hurry up! What the hell do you think I'm doing?"
And one trooper comes out sideways with his arms swinging. It's I loved it.
And I love when he goes down his knee and he shoots the one guy who's I guess hanging out the window, and they're climbing up and they're getting out, and then
hey, what do you think I'm doing?
It was great, and then having them run to get onto and let's talk about Slave One again coming in. Oh, and Boba Fett's armor is fantastic now. I cleaned it up.
Over that. I was like, did he get a glow up? As the kids say, he comes out, he's all shiny. I was
worked on this guy. Yeah, he worked on it. It looks great.
Now I gotta say this because this might show my greenness on something Star Wars here. Yeah. Have we ever seen the inside of Slave One like that?
I think
the way the chamber and it turned. Holy crap, was that awesome?
It was. In Attack of the Clones,
we've seen the pilots section go up, but we've never seen the cargo hold with the 5 seats or whatever, and it all rotated and rotating around them. I was like, that was fucking brilliant.
And speaking of that, if we're jumping around a little bit, Ken Knapsack geeked out somewhere because as they're getting away. And first of all, we should call into where Bill Burr blows up the thing. He just, it doesn't sit with him. He knows he's seen what's happening after the guy just told him.
Give me that rifle. Give me the rifle.
All that stuff's gonna do. We want to blow up everything. He's like, no, you're not. And boom, he takes it out, and that catches Cara Dune's attention, obviously from the shot that he takes. And then they're leaving, and then they're locked on again, and whatever the blaster is sonic charge from Attack of the Clones, and they call that back, and you hear that sound, because that was one of my favorite things ever too. The silence.
And I remember hearing that in THX for the first time. Yeah. Holy God, it was awesome.
So someone said that it's the same. That's what I thought. Attack of the Clones it was when we saw the ship, but just the cockpit.
Okay, because I never knew, I figured we've never seen the ship before. I didn't think in Clone Wars or anything, but to see that cargo hold and where you could fit more, because it always felt like, okay, he's got a couple seats in there, because that's all we've ever seen with him and Jango, but to see that inner workings and how it all rotated around, because it's a interesting design for a ship. Lands one way, goes this way, how's the cockpit move, and we saw the cockpit, but now to see that whole cargo hold, that's what I love about this show. It's giving these things that we've thought about before, or maybe not, or
it's like a Crate Dragon episode. It's like it brings back. This is why I have fallen in love with the show, is because you have something that brings you back to the ultimate love that you had for Star Wars as a kid, and this episode surely showed not just from the original trilogy. It showed like this prequel stuff, like the mention. Boba Fett really tied it into the prequels a lot, with the sonic charge, with the line
seismic charges. They're telling us in the chat. I knew it was something. You gotta forgive me here, guys. My geekdom knowledge is at the seams right now.
Right. So, but either way, you have these you have these moments, these tie-ins to the prequels, to the original trilogy, the tone of it, and it was a lot of fun, and it led up great to the last scene where Gideon he's on the ship, and they say, "Yeah, sir, you got to see this." And this is Rick Famuyiwa wrote this episode as well as directing, in which he did a fantastic job directing this episode.
Yeah, he did.
He also wrote it really well, because when you tie it into the last it was the finale of last season, and it is the exact same thing that Gideon said to the Mandalorian. He's like, you have something. He's like, you think you do, but you do not. And he recited the every word he recited it. It was great. It was poetic. I love the way it ended, and it was just like this kind of, all right, well, let's see what happens. And
the lines are drawn. The battle. And what was weird for me was, I think that's most we ever heard Mando talk in a single sentence. So, like, because he's giving a nice little speech, I'm like, oh, he's really talking here. Usually he's a terse, short man of few words.
I think that's changing as we get he's changing. He's always changing. I mean, he's changing from when you see him from episode 1 of season 1 to now. It's all about the kid. It's not about the mission anymore. It's not. It's even less about obviously, this episode shows it. All he was the mission and Mandalorian culture.
Code.
That's the code. It's all falling. It's all falling to the side when it comes to this kid.
And there will be people in its opinion that will be upset that they prefer the old Mando, this and that. It's like, but as a character and the lead of your series, you got to evolve.
You got to change him up.
You got to evolve. You want your actor brought in. I'm sure Pedro's wants to, do some more work with his mask off. So it's just evolution of the character.
So people are asking, as far as the super chats go, I am reading the super chats, but what I'm doing is I'm actually screenshotting them because what I realized is you lose them sometimes if you don't get to them fast enough. So I've screenshotted the ones that came in, and Major Zuma says, when Mayfield is talking to that superior, that's one of the most intense moments of the show so far. I love this. Star Wars has a bright future. We're going to get into that bright future. And just to let people know, after we finish up wrapping this, we're going to get into all the announcements that were made from yesterday's panel. It is possible that we're going to blend over into SEN. If we do, I believe SEN will still be able to go live at 10 o'clock. So you can kind of go back and forth if you like to, but we're going to cover this as long as we can, as long as we have to, because there's so much to cover. And we want to make sure that we can do that. And SEN Live, Brett Sheridan's hosting today, which is going to be amazing. And they're going to be covering it all. I mean, there's so much that they're going to be covering on that show, from the Marvel stuff, the Star Wars stuff, the Pixar stuff, the Disney originals. There's a lot of stuff that they're going to be covering. So tune in at 10 or 10, whenever we're finished. Everyone lies. Thank you. Think last night's Mando was added to appease Pedro. The lead-in just seemed tacked on at the end this week. Is just kind of why. No, I don't actually, because the reason why is because, like I said, it's showing that the Mandalorian is more about this kid than anything else, and he's willing to break the rules.
It was embedded in the story. It was essential.
Yep.
That the whole taking his helmet off. He had to do that.
I like that a lot. Christopher Ramos, I love these reviews. It's great to see Harloff truly geek out about Star Wars again. Hey, Mikey Christmas, much love. Damn, just one episode left. Anyways, you guys are great. Keep up the good work. Yeah, only one episode left, but as we're about to get into a little bit, I think myself and Mikey Christmas are going to have a lot to talk about over the next months.
Sweet Christmas, man. And I tell you what I love about the episodes again last night, and I always, you start it and your little time code comes up in 37 minutes. I'm like, crap, man. But what I love about this and what I'm going to do, you can watch this all in one sitting. All 8 episodes, it'll take you 4 hours, 5 hours. You knock that out easily.
I
love that. I really wish going in. I should have done a season 1 rewatch before I started. Okay. I did it.
I did before.
I really should have, man. And I'm really kicking myself on the like the whole you said about he said what he said at the Moff Gideon said and returning to it. Like I remember it now, but I'm like I would have picked up on that. It would have been so much better last night.
Darren
live and learn.
Darren Aquino, could Din be a decommissioned Mandalorian hunter? That'd be why he's in the system. I mean, it could be. It's one of those things that anytime it could be, it's like, yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know how they're going to wind up playing it, but it's possible for sure. Mike, what do you wind up schmoing this thing?
Oh gosh, dude. See, I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be like every episode comes out, I was like, that's got to be it. That's my favorite so far, because it blows up my scale. I mean, it could. Yeah, there's people that do that. I loved last week so much. I still love the first one, but this one is up there, man. I want to say, like, I know people had so much love for Ahsoka in that episode. I'd put this 4.9. 4.9.
Wow.
A low 4.9.
Okay. I'm lower than you on this one. Still in the fours. I'm at 4.4.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. Absolutely.
I'll say this. It's interesting because last week I was getting a lot of talking to people about this. And that's what I love is all these people talking Star Wars now. Is so many people felt cheap because of the way it was shot and on location, and it didn't look as good, and the planet was kind of boring, and everything that people had problems with, I loved about it. It felt like old school Star Wars. Him and Lucas out in the desert, Tunisia, trying to get shots wherever they could and wherever they, the environment allowed. It felt so old school last episode. That's why I love it. That's why I love this show. If you don't like one episode, you're going to love the next. And a lot of times we're going to disagree.
Agreed. All right.
Disagree.
You agree to disagree. That's right. But either way, everybody. So that's, I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything inside of that episode that can be done. We'll be here for the full finale. Next episode. The people have been
How long do you think? How long? Runtime.
47 minutes. That's what I would do.
I'm going to go 53.
53? I think.
Dude, they got a lot to put in there.
They got a lot because people are talking about this Avengers type moment that they could have, right, with Bo-Katan, Boba Fett, Ferric.
I don't think Bo-Katan's coming back. I think she's done this season. I always say this. I wish Mayfield was sticking around with the group.
So that's, by the way, that's something we didn't discuss at the very end, because I thought, and this is something that we're going to be able, we get into momentarily, with this new Rangers of the Rangers of the New Republic.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, she's recruiting him, and he very well might show up in that show. I don't, but they leave him on this planet, and he just
they left him on the planet too. I was like, oh, what?
But you know what? I thought about that till my head, and it drops. It's not a bad planet to be in. There's no more Empire on the planet, but he's also he's in the system. They think he's dead, so that's a good place to be dead, because no one. It's a simple planet,
and it's Mayfield. He's the kind of character that wherever he goes, he gets that. He'll get by,
and he'll find a way out if he needs to get out.
Yeah, but I did really like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of him, and not because of his performance in the first one. It was just because I know Bill Burr from his comedy.
Right,
so it does take a little while to get into him.
This time, the first time was
this time I was like on board, and he gave that performance, and he won me over. I was like, this guy, I want to see more of him. I love him. And maybe it didn't have that stupid little gun thingy backpack. I thought that was a little like, okay, that's kind of stupid. But
he had depth. He had depth in this one, and
great.
I think that once you get over the initial kind of jarring thing, it wasn't for me, but I know a lot of people it was the jarring thing about, oh, there's Bill Burr. Now you just know
that season was for me like that,
right? That's what I mean. So now that he's in, you're like, okay, well, I know he's in the show. Let's see what the character's all about. And I think that it wasn't just, if you would just, there were a couple times. Oh, by the way, one of my favorite lines is when he goes, and you people keep this thing on. And by you people, I mean Mandalorian.
Oh, that was great.
It was such a great Bill Burrism.
I hope to God that was an improv. I hope to God he was on stage. He's like, like he said, like you people. Then he's like, oh, I can't say it. Wait, not you people. You know what I meant.
I think
he's brilliant.
Because I think at one point I can't remember if it was
people,
Pedro, or it might have been. I actually think the brown eyes thing might even been improv, because I think Pedro like cracks a smile at one point.
His face when he calls him brown eyes and that he's deaf, and Pedro Pascal, like to his acting, to not be able to say anything and still convey what exactly he's feeling. He's brilliant.
Right. All right, so listen. So that's gonna be the discussion on the Mandalorian spoiler review, because I think we covered everything, right? But
pretty straightforward episode.
This show's far from over. Our show here today, because we have a lot to cover, and as Tim Sim brings out, for those who
how you doing, buddy?
For those who fear burnout, don't forget that Kathleen said that there's Star Wars for anyone, meaning you don't have to watch all of them. Upset we didn't get more Ryan trilogy news personally. As I've made it clear, it was the smartest thing that they could have ever done was not to mention that thing. And what I mean by that is not, do I want to see Ryan Johnson do a trilogy of movies? No, I don't. Not really, not because I don't respect him as a filmmaker. Okay. I do, and I think he's a great filmmaker. I don't. Whatever. Last Jedi aside, This is and I say Last Jedi side of as far as the divisiveness of it. You look at things that he's done for television, Breaking Bad, a lot of different shows that he's been a part of, and he's a great writer, and he's really, really talented. I'd like to see him, if he's going to do anything, if they give him a show to do an episode that someone else wrote, to see it's the same way that Robert Rodriguez did, right? I think that's how you get the fans, because the fans will push back on it and go, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. And then when he does an episode the same way that he did like Breaking Bad, like, all right, well, that was a good episode. Then you get them back in your favor.
Yeah.
If they would have announced yesterday, inside of all these announcements of Rian Johnson coming back, all this love and everything that you're seeing right now, there would have been a war between the fans again, because there are people like Tim Sim would be like, yes, thank God. Or like Laura Kelly would be like, yeah, thank God they did the Rian Johnson thing. Great. And then there's other people like, no. It would have been terrible.
As many people hate him, love him in Star Wars.
Absolutely.
He's a divisive man.
It's what happened in general. And if you're Star Wars and you're Lucasfilm, you cannot risk that for your big announcement.
You were in a weird position.
Yeah, you can't do it. Now, do I think that trilogy is going to happen? I don't. I think that trilogy.
I don't think it is either.
I think it's dead in the water.
I think it's funny because people are, it didn't dawn on me about the drought that there had been in Star Wars and Marvel until this had popped up for a good year because of 2020 being what it was. But I remember the last words I remember from the heads of Star Wars were after the whatever was of Rise of Skywalker's like, you know what, Star Wars needs to go in the back burner for a little while. We need to pull back. We gave you too much, and then 2020 happened. So obviously, I mean, they're not stupid. They were in the works going, okay, how do we right the ship on this?
Now now we're gonna move to. There's a lot of different announcements. I'm gonna start with my favorite announcement, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Right. So and people, it was kind of
this was your favorite, huh?
Out of the announcements that were made, yes.
Okay, I'll get to mine when we get to it then.
Yeah, so this is absolutely my favorite. I can tell. I think it's the most important series out of all of them that are going out there right now. It's dangerous, and it's also the most important. Okay. But when we start with the announcements, one that fell under the radar because it was said so quick. Because I saw people tweeting, they announced Mandalorian season 3. They did. They announced that.
You're saying, yeah.
They announced it was coming out in December of next year.
December next year.
So it'll play into 2022. It'll start 2021 and 2022. We're also getting Bad Batch, which we can talk about in a moment. But when it came to Obi-Wan Kenobi, the big announcement there that I've been screaming for. Dude, I've been screaming for this on Jedi Council.
You on top of a mountain screaming, buddy? No one's listening to you?
No, they were listening. They were just saying, Darth Vader's not going to be in it. There's no chance Darth Vader is going to be in it. He can't be in it. It doesn't make sense as a story. And I said, dude, it makes all the sense in the world.
Okay, because, dude, I want to hear your take then, because I hear this. You would say what the announcement is then,
Kristian is returning as Darth Vader. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can do this, right? You can put him in flashbacks as Anakin, which will probably happen. That's one thing. But then you put him in the suit because they're going to have that clash, and they need to have that clash.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because we're going to butt heads.
No, I think I'm going to turn you. I think I'm going to turn you to the dark side.
I'm not against it. Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi again?
You're wondering why and how he can come back, considering
because he's like, I haven't seen him this and this. I haven't done this.
Wait a minute.
Return
of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi. Luke tells Vader. He says to him, he goes, "Hey, there's still good in you. I can sense it." He said, Obi-Wan once felt as you did. When did he feel that? When he was burning on the mountain? Oh, there's still good in you, but I'm still going to let you just fry there, and then I'm going to take your lightsaber and say that. So that's one, because
I mean, granted, I know like
the line that you can push back on is, when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master, right? So if you left him, the question is, how are they going to play it up? Because I feel that Obi-Wan is going to be on that planet. It's 10 years after is what she said. She said 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. So 10 years he's on this planet. Now remember,
which is 8 years before. Is it 8 years? What is it? Is it
19 when
19 years? Yeah, I thought it was 18. 19 years. Okay, so it's right in the middle.
It's right around. So it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So he's in the prime of hunting Jedi down, killing people too.
Yep.
And when Obi-Wan leaves him on Mustafar, he thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
Right. And there's got to be a recognition at some point, even though he saw him in episode 4, because he says in Jedi,
he's more Oh, so he does see. He's got to see him in that outfit then.
Well, no, but remember, he sees him in episode 4. That's why he says that in episode. You can make the argument that in episode 6 he says that because he saw him.
Yeah.
But there was. Knows he's so far gone in episode 4. There's no torture for Obi-Wan ever that his friend, his Padawan, has turned, right? He saw, because at what point does he know that he's alive? Because when he left him on Mustafar, he thinks he's dead. We don't know. There's in the comic books they play with this. They play with the fact that that Vader is having issues also, and Vader has visions that he's going to denounce the Emperor and go back to Obi-Wan and say, I'm sorry, my friend, but he doesn't do it. Right. So this clash is going to happen. She says it in the announcement yesterday. This is going to be the greatest rematch of all time. I mean, that alone, this is the limited series. And the thing that really excites me the most is Deborah Chow. Deborah Chow had arguably the 2 best episodes season 1 last. Yeah. I've seen Taika Waititi had good ones too, but they all did. But Deborah Chow, there's something about the way she directs that I feel she really gets.
Which one did she do this season too? Is it the Bo-Katan?
Didn't do this season.
Really?
She didn't direct the season. I think because she's working heavy. She's directing every episode of Obi-Wan. She's directing the entire.
Okay.
So that's
great.
That is why, to me, when we get into this a little bit more, this series, Ahsoka. And I'm curious about the Rangers one, because they all have, even though Obi-Wan doesn't necessarily have Favreau and Filoni producing it, there's the tie-in, and she's been around the Mandalorian, and she sees the way the dynamics of it. She understands. If you watch Gallery, she understands how it all works. So those are the 3, like, as far as creative, that I'm really excited about.
Someone said something in one of the Twitters or something about this many shows, like, there's bound to be ones that don't work or don't work as well as other ones. And that's great. And that's fine. You find out what works and what doesn't. And let the filmmakers have voices. Agreed.
And that's what I go with Tim. Like, I saw a lot of this yesterday. I didn't even respond to it because I don't think this is why, when it comes to television and film with Star Wars, it's significantly different, right? Because, and you're
a big TV. Big defender of the whole, it's not too much content what we're getting.
No, because I think not when it comes to television. In film there's a risk, and you clearly saw that with Solo, and Solo as far as content goes, the argument of whether the actor was the right choice to encapsulate the persona of Han is a different thing altogether. The movie itself, it plays like a good Star Wars chapter. There's no doubt about it. The reason why it was coming off of, first of all, it was coming out right after Avengers Infinity War, right? Or coming out right before, or right after. Either way, after,
around the same time,
after, whatever it was. And it was still, it had no time to breathe. The other thing was, it was coming up 6 months after The Last Jedi, and that was all the stink was starting to come up from the people who didn't like it, and then the people who did love it. It was this kind of internal battle going on in general.
Yeah.
So it was a bad move to have it there. So right away the fans go, "Oh, 2 movies a year don't work." You would have put that movie out in December
if they would have stuck to the year schedule.
It's significantly better. But even so, it doesn't. It's I go back to the idea of, when you put a movie out, you have to wait 2 or 3 years. This is why I think Rogue Squadron, for film, people always ask me, "You don't want to see films anymore?" Of course I do, but I don't want to see them do trilogies and stuff. A standalone Rogue Squadron that maybe could have a sequel down the line, depending how it does, is great, because and we'll talk about that announcement. We might as well just get into it now. You must have been losing your mind when
Dude, let me tell you something. Because I had no idea where we're going, because I was yesterday, dude, I had 2 auditions to self-tape at home. These announcements are dropping. I'm trying to memorize lines. Shannon's trying to help me tape this thing, and I'm like, I can't. How can Disney do this to me? Every 5 seconds, something's coming up. So I see this thing with Patty Jenkins, and I'm like, it looked kind of like it didn't even look like a movie trailer. I was like, is she doing some kind of service for, like, the Air Force, like a public service announcement? What is this?
Right.
I could not even put 2 and 2 with Star Wars together, because I saw it by itself. And when she put that flight suit on, like, Patty Jenkins, to me, one of my filmmakers, that's a woman that's won me over. Like, gives me Wonder Woman to me is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time.
Right.
She's got such a love for filmmaking. Hearing her talk about any movie, when you watch her make, she just loves it. And to see this happen, that to me was perfection in how you do an announcement. Perfection.
And it was also very personal. with her.
That's what I'm saying. You get these filmmakers that want to tell these stories, and those are the best stories.
It was very personal for her story with her dad, and all of that, and be able to share that, and then make the announcement. Plus the fact I thought it's a good move to be. She's beloved, right? And there are a lot of people who
everyone loves her.
There are a lot of people who, obviously there's this. I don't love the battle that goes on between if you love DC, you can't love Marvel, and if you love Marvel, you can't love DC. It's silly to me, but she is someone who is beloved by both parties, if you will.
It's kind of like James Gunn now.
Yeah, and so
they're going to go back and forth, and I will say this because a lot of people are like, "Oh man, she got pissed at WB, and now she's jumping ship." I was like, "This announcement was in the works. That thing they filmed. That probably took them a month to deal with, a month ago. So this was not having to do with the Warner Brothers." But I will say this, she made a big thing on a statement about, "I plan on going back to making films in the theater. That's what I'm doing with the theatrical experience." Wonder Woman 84 aside, so this and them to say theatrically with this. I'm sure that is in there with her going, I'll do this, but I want it's going to big screens.
Yeah, so she's doing Rogue Squadron, and the fact that she don't even, let's not lose sight of the fact that it's Rogue Squadron, which is
people, like on the comics, man.
How are they going to do it though? God. Because Rogue Squadron was kind of started with Luke and all the and
right.
they're probably going to have to rearrange canon a little bit or not. Or when is it going to take place? Is it going to take place? Is it the formation of Rogue Squadron?
You do it before. I don't know, man.
Does that mean Biggs is going to be in it? Does that mean that Wedge would probably have to be the lead character, right?
I would think so. I'm just going off those damn comics and how damn good they were. Oh my God.
People love them. I never got. I was talking.
Oh, come on! Those came out when we talk about the drought of Star Wars. Yeah. There was a drought, and it was just the comics.
It was the comics one and the Timothy Zahn novel.
And the novels. Yeah. But for me as a comic guy, and those, it satisfied my fix, and it was just so good because you're like, and everyone we always said is like, man, imagine Top Gun in space. Imagine Top Gun in space.
And that's kind of what it is, and I think
that's what it is.
I think that's what she's going to wind up doing. So, so Rogue Squadron, Obi-Wan, Rogue Squadron, and I think people are very excited about Rogue Squadron for sure. Yeah. It is the movie I think they said 2023. I believe that gives enough time. And to go back to the conversation we were having, like about content, right? It's like you put a movie out that comes out in 2023. You know, you're going to be so excited to get back to the movies to watch a Star Wars movie, right? That's 3 years from now. So by the time it comes out in the theater, you're going to want to watch it again. And for people, there's too much content. You're not making it special. You're putting all these TV series. Don't watch one of them. Watch the one that you watch the one that you want to watch. Like that's
say that meanly. You don't have to watch it
because it's different with movies. With movies, it's like, they're ruining the story because they keep continuing. These are different time periods. The Star Wars galaxy is so vast, and she even said, Kathleen Kennedy said in the beginning, is spanning. I was curious that she said how many years she said, because from Legends it's like 2,000 to 3,000 years. Because this other one that they mentioned that I'm very intrigued with is the Acolyte.
Yes,
the Acolyte to me, because what they've introduced over the series, and I knew something was coming from this because it made sense from the way they were getting all this stuff into the Star Wars canon and universe. Here was this High Republic. So the High Republic takes place around 200 years before Phantom Menace.
Okay, so not that far back in the canon of Star Wars.
Yeah, people are, I think, confused where they think the High Republic is replacing the Old Republic, and the Old Republic is like thousands of years. So we're like, the Sith are going to have armies and everything too. That's Old Republic. Sith had armies and all that, and then, which is canon because they're mentioned in Clone Wars, Darth Bane, in the novel, he sets off this Sith like thought bomb, which wipes them all out. He wipes out all the Sith, and he just keeps himself around, and then he creates the rule of two. Yoda in the Clone Wars gives him still the props that he created the rule of two. So at this point, it seems as if the rule of two is in full effect.
The Acolyte at that point.
The Acolyte. So and it's going to be a dark side show. So this is right up my alley. The question
look at the font, the red and the cuts.
It's a dark side show. So the question is this series, is it about Darth Bane? Because there were rumblings that there was a Darth Bane show or a Darth Bane movie in the works behind the scenes, but it just never kind of came to fruition. Maybe that all turned into a thing. So if this is where I cross my fingers and hope this is where I cross my fingers and hope when they say, okay, look, what material do we have that can really pull to get those Drew Carpathian novels from Darth Bane and adapt those into The Acolyte, because those are 3 solid stories that people would lose their minds over. It is such, you want to read some good books, Mike, you read the Darth Bane trilogy. I mean, they're legends, they're not canon, but if you can adapt those.
Well, let's make it canon now. If they're going to adapt in it,
I don't know. They could, although I think this, if they made it canon, I think it takes place like 1,000 years beforehand.
Okay. So they may pick and choose, kind of like what Marvel does.
Yeah, they could adapt it. But if they took Darth Bane and they took him and made that the Acolyte thing, because the Sith got to be moving in the shadows. Because if you look at the Phantom Menace, when they're talking about the Sith, they've been hidden for years. Yeah. They haven't been out there. Like, this isn't Old Republic where there's the Sith army and there's the Jedi army. I still want to see that. But I'll be cool watching a full show about the Sith. I mean, sign me up. I mean, that's something I'm very excited about. I just don't have enough details yet to say after Obi-Wan. Because the reason, by the way, and just to jump back in Obi-Wan, the reason why Obi-Wan to me is the most important of the shows at the moment is because of how important it is to set up. Like, I know Revenge of the Sith, people are torn at, right? With the story itself of the prequels, to me, I think the story is great. Dialogue and certain things and transitions that happen are a little rough sometimes. I think that there's always that thing of how he turned into Darth Vader is just so quick. He's just like, he goes there to help. He just turns like the drop of a hat, right? I think that this starts to play into their relationship more. This starts to play into the pain more. This also is an era that we haven't seen a lot of at all in Star Wars, like right after Revenge.
On that same token, I mean, one of the things we love about Vader when we see him is there is no conflict in him when we see him in A New Hope. So will we see this conflict? And then by the time he shows up, is it going to, a lot of people are like, will it contradict the Vader we've seen for 4, 5, and 6, where he is this unstoppable force, unfeeling, until we get to Jedi, where Luke is able to bring him out.
Well, there certainly wasn't a lot of conflict in him when he was. I just watched the fight between him and Ahsoka in Rebels.
Okay,
and he's off the deep end in that one. Like, there's no matter. It doesn't matter if she's there, and all the love he had for her, he's far gone. So what the hell happened inside of that? Because if you go to the novels, if you go to like Lords of the Sith or any of the comics, he does have a lot of conflict as he's starting out. He's still transitioning from Anakin into Vader, and Palpatine is very aware of that. He sends him on more missions to do more crooked stuff and evil stuff to get him more further and further down the dark side. So he could very well be just more machine now than man. Like, when this happens, when this interaction happens, and Obi-Wan's got to try to think to himself, I got to try to get my buddy back. And I think that he's going to be living on Tatooine, looking after Luke, and he's going to wake up in like a deep sleep, realize, holy crap, Anakin's still out there. I got to get off this planet. I got to get off the planet. I got to find this guy, and enter new character who's going to watch over Luke while I'm gone.
Owen's got him.
Uncle Owen's got it. Yeah, but Uncle Owen didn't do very well with them in New Hope. So I mean, it's not the biggest confidence.
Yeah, bring Joel Edgerton back. Give him something to do.
Edgerton is going to come back.
Is he?
I think so.
Oh, it hasn't been announced. Yeah, you bring him back. Hell yeah.
I think he comes back.
He's a heck of a big name now compared to what he was back in.
But he's expressed interest that he would love to come back. So I think,
man, him and Ewan McGregor have scenes together about like what the kid is and what they do with him. Woo!
And you can see that it's the conflict to start to happen between those two.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
It'll definitely happen. I think it adds into it because it's got to lead. It's only 9 years before. I mean, both those guys dramatically in between them.
And Luke will be a kid.
Luke will be 10 years old.
He'll be around Anakin's age in Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Well, yeah, around that.
Similar.
Little, yeah, he'll be 10. Well, you're definitely gonna have a young Luke. You're gonna have all that.
Great.
It's going to be like when you meet him, he's going to be in this peaceful kind of everything's good, and then conflict, and then something happens.
Well, I don't think he'll be like, Jesus, my way of life is destroyed, and the crazy old hermit.
That's right.
Dude, I got man.
The whatever it is, 6 or 7 episodes, or I maybe 5, whatever it might be.
But and they've said this is it. This is a limited series. This is it.
That's all I need. I don't need a full. I don't need every just one. This is like a 5-hour.
But I want hour-long episodes.
Maybe
hour long.
Yeah, it just depends. It depends on how long the total thing is. If it's 5 hours, total. If I got a 5-hour movie that I can just watch back.
Someone's been making a great point. They said Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon because at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he's like, I've so and so, and he's like Qui-Gon.
Yeah. And so this is the new one. Hold on a second. This is the new one. The certain point of view. That's from Empire Strikes Back, but they have the other one from New Hope. And inside of that, there's a side story. I believe Claudia Gray was able to. Claudia Gray did a scene with both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi where he first reveals himself. So I think he will be talking to him. I think he will, and it'll be you're gonna have him back, you're gonna have Edgerton back, and that's why I think it's important because it ties it all together. Leading into it's the first kind of big lead in besides Rogue One to episode 4, and it's a different so we got the tie in from Rogue One into episode 4 with the scene at the end and how it all kind of ties into the plans and all that. But that was one big story with the Death Star and everything. But the other big story is Luke and how Luke's story. So what's the lead in there? And we're going to find out. The other question is inside of that series, right? Because I don't think he's staying on Tatooine the whole time. I think he's going to be traveling around.
Yeah, he would have to. Because I think he'd want to keep Vader away from Luke because he could sense him. Keep him off that planet.
That's one of the biggest plot holes in Star Wars. They don't change his last name and they put him on Tatooine. It's like, but either way, so he never goes back there. He doesn't want to go back there because it's outside the regions of where the Empire rule anyway. He doesn't want to go back to that planet, and maybe he doesn't think Obi-Wan would be stupid enough to bring him there. Who knows? Yeah. But either way, he's going to go to the planet. And do we see a young Leia? Do we see do we go to Alderaan? You know what I mean? Like there's remember in Rogue One. Bail Organa talks about Obi-Wan and talks about how his buddies out there and he's been talking to him. So maybe he's seen him. But either way, jumping back and forth here. So we got Obi-Wan, we got Rogue Squadron movie, we got the new Acolyte already. Not the new Acolyte, the Acolyte, excuse me. And then the one that we talked about on this show that we said was inevitable.
Yeah,
was Ahsoka.
Yeah, that's a given.
It's inevitable. So Ahsoka, the reason why everyone kind of talked about that episode where she showed up in Mandalorian, that this is a backdoor pilot. And this is fun. And back on my days on Jedi Council, I was Filoni needs a movie. He's got to direct a movie. I don't need him to direct a movie. I want him to direct a TV series. He's a great TV director. And now he gets to do live action Ahsoka. This is going to be, and this is also, I think there were rumors about how there was going to be a live action kind of follow up to Rebels. I think that's what this is. I think this is what this is. This is going to show that's why Thrawn ain't showing up in Mandalorian. Thrawn's This is Thrawn inside of
now with this announced, I was like, he's not. I knew he was going to come this season. I was like,
there's rumors, by the way, that Lars Mikkelsen is going to revise the role as Thrawn, which I'd be all for. By the way, going back to Haskell 420, as Vader said, Obi-Wan once thought as you did with the dialogue callbacks, and we've gotten Obi-Wan may repeat Luke's line from Jedi. I sense the conflict in you, Anakin. Let go of your hate. Absolutely, you could hear that for sure. Major Zuma, the interest in High Republic launch just raised by 1,000%. Rise of Darth Plagueis, possibly. Also possible. I think Bane is too early unless they changed in the new canon. I'm down for either. Well, he wouldn't be. You mean it would be too late for Bane because Bane would have been 1,000 years beforehand, but if they change in the canon, you're right. Unless they don't change it, you're absolutely right. Plagueis is also possible because if they keep him in the book, he's immune. If they keep the species immune, then he absolutely could be around, and the rise of Plagueis would be very interesting. And if he indeed was the acolyte, and people were calling for him for so long, this kind of character, he reminds me in Star Wars kind of what Thanos was for a bit. Like people kept
and big bad.
Yeah, because Thanos was a guy where you kept talking about him because he'd done all these things in the comic books, and everything. Are they going to bring Thanos in? They're going to bring Thanos in. Plagueis has been long rumored for so long to bring in, and I'm actually glad that they didn't use him in the new trilogy. Now I think they could have. I think they could. I think it was set up for them to use, but they didn't use him. Yeah. And I think if we use him to see him in his prime, I mean, that would be pretty great. If they keep him, I want him to keep immune. Please keep immune. That would be awesome. But going back to Ahsoka there, Mike.
Yeah.
By doing this series and having Dave Filoni kind of write this series, I think will go on for a little bit. I think Rosario Dawson comes in, signs this deal already. That's why she shows up. And what it does brilliantly is for people who've been tuning into Mandalorian who don't know who she is, they do one of two things. They like her. They go, oh, wow, it's Rosario Dawson. Oh, wow, she's a Jedi. Oh, wow, she's going to have her own series. I'll watch. And for other people, it's, oh, who's that character? That's she was in Clone Wars. Oh, I'm gonna go watch Clone Wars. I'm gonna watch Rebels, and then they go back and watch it. Oh, I'll go watch her series. And for hardcore Star Wars fans already, they're gonna watch it regardless. So it to me, that was the biggest no-brainer series that you can make. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She's so good in the role. There was no way she wasn't going to win people over. There were people that wanted the voice actress in the role. That's kind of the only little hiccups I saw and this and that. But she was so good, and it's strong enough to have her own series. Strong.
And I think that you're going to cast, I think Sabine will be in this show. I think Ezra will be in this show.
You think Ezra will show up?
Well, that's the whole mission. The whole mission is to find Ezra. I think the entire
that'll be interesting.
Now, will he show up in season 1? I don't know, maybe. But I think that they're going to go to the outer regions and or the unknown regions, excuse me. They're going to the unknown regions and they're going to go hunting for Thrawn. They're going to and it's going to be her. It's going to be Sabine. And I don't know if they're going to go and find Zed. I have no idea. Or Zeb, not Zed. Zeb. And yeah, so it's interesting. We'll see how they play that out. Darren Aquino, Tyler Selshu, and Corin Horn should be templates for the rogue protagonist. Horn can be a Jedi tie-in without using a legacy character. Very possible. Also, I wonder how much they're going to pull from the source material. Tim Sim, strong chance we'll see Sabine, Ezra, and Thrawn in Ahsoka series. I'd say almost a guarantee. Almost a guarantee for all three of those. Because it's had there was not that line, you know, from Ahsoka at the end about where Thrawn is and the search for him, then, you know, because we know where it leads in from that prologue in Rebels. So we're not even close to done here. If we want to go to the there's that series with let's go to Andor. We'll talk about Andor.
Okay.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I feel like out of all the series that were announced, this was the one people were the least excited about.
Was it you? Someone on Twitter we were talking. I mean, we weren't talking about it, but there was a comment made about this. Like, this is the one that people were not excited for per se. I don't know. Like, when they talked about it, like it's a spy film, like it's a spy series. I'm like, get me on board for this. That's okay, cool. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of his character in Rogue One. But you know,
yeah. Well, my thing for this series, and I've said it 1,000 times over. Sorry, epilogue, not the prologue. You're right. My biggest thing with the Cassian Andor series is that what they need to do, besides it, they say it's going to be a spy thriller. Now, I wonder if they're going to play into what people don't know about Cassian inside of, I believe it was the Rogue One novel, was that his parents were actually separatists. They fought. They were supported the other side of the war.
He's been in this since he was 6. Like, that was the one line.
He was younger, yeah, and so
since I was 6.
Right. So and you'll see that. I just hope that they really get into the inner workings of it. You want to, let's go espionage, right? But let's go into the deeper workings of the Empire.
And the chat here, Kay Walton just said that the writers are of the Americans. So I'm like, there you go. The Americans. That's brilliant spy work. And that's my genre right up there. You're blending Star Wars and spies together. I'm on board.
Yeah. That to me is interesting, and I want to see how it ties. Some people, it's curious because a lot of times people push back against some of these Star Wars series because they say, it makes the universe too small, and you're worried about just connecting the the overall the Skywalker thing and this and that. This is a separate story that would be these kind of side missions that espionage of how the rebellion, the start of the rebellion. So that would be, I think, maybe because of the same, it's a time period we spent a lot of time in comic books, in novels, in Rebels, right, leading up to it. We've seen a lot of that stuff, but that's another thing that you could find interesting. I think that you can.
Well, the fact that they're calling it Andor, but also, we talk about the Empire and how some of the people are just doing their job. Like, what if you frame two different sides of the story? Like, hey, we're just doing our job, and there's these insurgents destroying us and killing us, blowing up bases, and it's just like, I'm just trying to make a living for my family. Right. You should see both sides, and maybe he meets someone on the other side, and there's so much room for conflict where we just don't see good and evil. This Andor series to me is all the gray in Star Wars.
Yeah. I want to see how they pull it off. I want to see how they're able to do it. But it's the same thing where if you're like I saw someone say, "Oh, they're not making a Star Wars special by putting all this content out." Don't watch this series. If you feel like, if you look at all this lineup, there's nothing out there for you that you like out of it, then what can I tell you? But if there's nothing,
I'll tell you.
There's Bad Batch. There's the Acolyte. That'll probably be the later one. There's Obi-Wan. And there's Andor. Yeah, man. So I don't know. This is the other one. So Christopher Ramos, you guys are right on point. An Uncle Obi-Wan, Owen and Obi-Wan conversation would be great. Yeah, that's exactly
getting those two actors.
Yeah, give them
a meaty scene to do, a couple meaty scenes.
Absolutely, it would be incredible to see. What else is there? So we talked Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka, Acolyte, Rogue Squadron. There's
the Bad Batch animated.
So yeah, so you once as you start to get into Clone Wars, you in the very last season,
I knew the Bad Batch where I've heard of them.
So, because this season that just came out, the beginning of the year, the Bad Batch. Well, the Bad Batch had already been featured in the Clone Wars before, but they did another version of them in the last episode. Well, not last episode. One of the first few episodes of the last season. They brought it in, and it was very interesting on the way that they played. They were setting up for something. They were setting up for something clearly, and now I liked this trailer because it just it feels like it's another season of the Clone Wars, which is cool.
That's what I feel like to me.
But it's after the events of Revenge of the Sith, which we haven't had before, and it's the end of the Clone Wars. I mean, the Clone Wars are over, and even you have Palpatine's voice in there. It's like First Galactic Empire, and you have that line. Then you have Tarkin in there, so that type of stuff is going to be fun. And I think it's. I don't know how involved Filoni is in this one. I'm not sure. But I'm
sure his DNA will be felt in it.
I'm curious to hear what you think about it once
I see it all.
Once you see it all, because there's other things. By the way, I'm looking at this slate: Bad Batch, The Acolyte, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka. Oh, Lando. I forgot about Lando. So Lando was
just thrown away, and I was like, that should be a pretty damn big thing.
You know why it was thrown away? Because they didn't mention Donald Glover in it yet.
Yeah, that was the one I was kind of like, why is he not here or his picture? And I'll say this:
contract ain't done. That's why.
Okay, because with Solo, film whatever, actor whatever, but I was like, man, why wasn't it a Lando film with Han Solo peppered in at the end? Because he was just so damn good in that role. Like, I wanted a Lando film instead of a Solo film.
So Lando will probably because it's a limited series for what they say.
Contract's not done.
What?
You think his contract's not done? And it ain't right on contract.
Yeah, she says that it's in development at the moment.
Okay.
She says it's in development. So I think that in development means let's get the hype on it. Let's get people. Let's get all these contracts done. We're working on it. Would getting Donald Glover back be massive? Of course it would. Is it necessary? It isn't. It's not necessary.
Really?
It's not necessary.
So you think this would be the third actor to take over the role?
Is it crucial? Is it important for them to get him back? Yes, for a lot of different reasons. One, he was the best part of that movie. There's no doubt about it. I think that he definitely took over Lando for sure. I think that because of how big of a star he is, you're going to bring in a lot of viewers. You're going to bring in a lot of his fan base that want to watch
his fan base in.
So it is important, and you should get it done if you can get it done. Does it mean that you have to scrap the series if you can't? No. Will people push back against having another Lando? Maybe, but if it comes out that you can get the job done, it's not. He's not. This isn't like replacing Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. It's not even like replacing Harrison Ford as Han Solo, because to the actor.
I'm going to say this. So it seemed like everyone was happy, and I think two years from now, there will be some different levels of happiness with this slate out there, depending on what news we get. This is one that, like, when people talk about too much content, and if you don't get Donald Glover, this is one of those like superfluous series. Like, why are we doing this then? Like,
right?
Yeah, I think they're hedging that Donald Glover's coming on board. They just might not have been able to say it, but it's kind of like the whole Obi-Wan thing. Yeah, we do that series. They wanted the series, but Ewan McGregor, it wasn't announced.
I think rumors. He's coming back. I think he's going to come back. I think that when he comes back, I think what will also happen inside of that is that they'll take the development of that Crimson Dawn series that they were going to do, certain things that they were going to do for Solo 2, if they were talking about, because there was Solo 2 that was signed on. They signed on for sequels when they made the movie in the first place. I think I think
they deal with, and they kind of, I don't want to say righting the wrongs of Solo, but going, hey, we had so much good stuff in this film that we developed. Build on it. With you're not bringing you didn't call it Solo and bringing Alden Ehrenreich back. They knew
you can bring in Darth Maul. I still think it would have been better to do a Crimson Dawn series like that was rumored, because that crime syndicate thing you could still have brought in Lando. What?
You have her Infant's Nest in there and all that with her, and
if you had all that, Darth Maul. You could bring in Kira back. You could bring in Lando. You can bring in Han if you needed to. I think that would have been. If you needed to, what I'm saying, but you don't, by throwing it on just Lando. It's, well, what is it? I don't know yet, but either way, very interesting. All right, before we wrap up, because we're gonna wrap up soon, so SEN can get started, because apparently they can't start at the same time. Andrew G, is A New Hope first time Empire occupies Tatooine? I don't know that much. I probably have to revisit the comics, so I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. And then NLSFC 96. Kathleen mentioned that Ahsoka, Mando, and a Rangers series. We didn't talk about the Rangers series. That's what we got to get into. Will be a shared universe similar to the MCU and have a huge tie in the end. I didn't know that was.
I mean, it should be all Star Wars. So
that makes sense. Ahsoka, Mando, and a Rangers. That maybe my idea will come to fruition, Mike. And that's at the end of it. Maybe they have one big, massive movie that comes out in the theater after all the series are.
Wouldn't doubt that in the least.
That's how like the big series finale is. My chat just froze now. Great, wonderful. Okay, great. Okay, well, I can't. Everybody's super chats now. Okay, got it. So if we now, you stupid dumb thing, won't shut off.
Your computer. What are you doing here?
Won't shut off this stupid thing.
You've seen them.
I'm gonna have to leave this thing on now. All right, before we wrap up, let's talk about the Rangers of the New Republic. If it is indeed Cara Dune, she is the character herself is beloved. The character herself is beloved. I can tell you that even Brett Sheridan this morning said that his daughter's favorite character, minus Mando and the kid, or Cara Dune, same with my daughter. They're setting it up for her character to go ahead and do that, to be part of it. Whether or not it could be, it doesn't necessarily, the way that they set it up though, it doesn't have to be Cara Dune. It could be what is happening with Cara Dune in general. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, not Cara Dune, excuse me, the New Republic in general. Right. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was, you were you dropped out for a little bit. I think this is a great idea for a show. I think I love the title Rangers. This to me, it's like, it reminds me of like old 80s cartoons. There was a cartoon, something Ranger, I forgot what it was. He was a cowboy that went across the galaxy, and he had a horse that stood up and talked. But it has this feeling of they're going planet hopping. They're keeping the peace. They're Rangers, and like old Texas Rangers. I love that. Like when he came into this last episode, oh, Marshall do now, huh? And he throws the badge down. Like, I love that.
Right.
Heck, Cobb Vanth, make him a Ranger. One of these guys, put him in there.
That's interesting. That's just interesting also. But either way, all right, we're gonna get to SEN here because SEN's going live in just a moment here. They're waiting for us to wrap up. So long episode, lot to go down, a lot that went down here. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the show. I wanted to remind everybody that if you didn't know already, if you are brand new to the channel and you don't know, we are doing a big, massive event this Saturday, the Schmodown Spectacular. Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained puts his championship on the line against former Jedi Council member Andres Ace Cabrera. That happens on Saturday. That's one of 6 matches. Chris Jericho is facing Brittany Young of Glow. That's right, Chris Jericho from AEW. Kevin Smith is going to be back facing Brett Sheridan. Chandra the Chosen, the Inner Geekdom champion of the world, puts his title on the line against Mike's teammate, Cobra, Chance Ellison, and the team's championship on the line. Bibiani and the Kid, Brendan Meyer, Shazam, they face the Odd Couple, Jeff Snyder and Mark Andraco. It's going to be 6 massive matches. The schmodownlive.com. And if you're part of Patreon, please join Patreon, patreon.com/schmodown, patreon.com/schmodown. Go on over there. Please join today. There's a lot of great things we have on over there, and especially if you're a Star Wars head and you think you know Star Wars trivia, see if you can hang with a lot of these guys. There's some great people out there that are playing. Go ahead, go on over there, check it out, and we'll enjoy it. Now go over, stay here, go to SEN. They're about to start in just a moment. But for myself and Mike Kalinowski, see you next time, everybody. And I got a little special thing I got to try to do here, Mike. See if I can do it in time. Probably not. Son of a Basel. Hold on.
Again?
No, I got something I'm going to try to do, but if not, let's see if I can do it. It's not working. How great is this theme music, by the way?
I love it.
It's from the great David B. Thank you to David B. And thank you to you guys once again. We'll see you guys on the flip side.